All right, so welcome once again to the Clear Admit Application Insight event series. Today we're doing Deferred Enrollment MBA programs. I know some of you were here last week when we talked about with another group of schools, so I'm really looking forward to today's event because we had so much fun last week as well. My name is Graham. I'm the co-founder of Clear Admit, and I'm going to moderate today's session. And now I want to just give a brief kind of intro for each of our panelists. So we're going to start with Verse Gabrielle. Verse is the Senior Associate Director for Accelerated Access at Berkeley Haas. So welcome, Verse. It's great that you can make time to join us today. We're also going to hear today from Nicole Newham, and she is the Associate Director of Admissions at Columbia Business School. Welcome, Nicole. It's great to have you. Then we're going to hear from Paul Manny III. Paul is the Assistant Director of Admissions at Stanford, the Graduate School of Business at Stanford. Welcome, Paul. It's good to see you. And we've also got Catherine Roberts. She is Director of Admissions for the Future Year Scholars Program at UVA Darden. Hey, Catherine. All right, everyone's off mic doing the wave. This is good. It's very efficient. And finally, Hillary Wiesel. She's the director of and I always forget how to pronounce this, but I'm going to go with MOLIS Advanced Access Program at Wharton. Did I get it? All right, I see a
You
thumbs up.
got
All
it.
right.
Hi, everyone.
I should know this by now, but it always trips me up because there was sort of too many vowels in there. But welcome. So I'm really excited to get
Especially as
into.
a Wharton alum, Graham.
I know it's terrible. I know. I'm not supposed to say I went to Wharton when I do these things because people might think I'm biased. But all right, cat's out of the bag. um, all right. So what we're gonna do is first, I want to just like say a couple of words about deferred enrollment because I think there's some confusion at times about what this is versus a traditional full-time MBA. And the answer is that it really is the same thing in some regards because when you do go and get your MBA, whether you're deferred or going sort of the traditional route, it's still the same degree and you're in the same classes with the same people. But the big difference with deferred is that you apply while you're still in university, and that could be senior year of college, or in most cases, most schools will also allow you to apply if you've gone directly into a master's program from undergrad. So basically pre-work experience. You can apply to these programs and secure a spot in the class for a future date. And that future date usually is somewhere between 2 and 5 years down the road. The idea is that you get your spot, you go off and work for anywhere from 2 to 5 years, and then you matriculate and join the class. And the other kind of fun thing about this, which I'm sure we'll get into, is that by getting an acceptance so early versus the traditional candidates who apply, you already become sort of part of a community. And I know our panelists are going to talk about that, but you become part of this sort of business school community very early on while you're working. And that's a huge advantage that we're going to hear more about today. So deferred MBA and a traditional MBA, it's the same degree, same exact program. It's just the timing is different in terms of you get to reserve a spot ahead of time. So let's move on, though. I wanted to ask each of our panelists to weigh in on these sort of two very basic questions. And we're going to start with Verse at Berkeley Haas. And I just wanted you to give me one reason that someone should consider deferred enrollment, and also maybe a reason that somebody might want to hold off.
Yeah, it's really great questions. I think a deferred MBA program can really provide clarity early on for a candidate. It can allow candidates to secure, like you said, a spot in the top program while they're still in this academic mindset. Because honestly, once you get out in the real world, working full time and also trying to apply for an MBA program is a whole job in itself, right? So you're already in the mindset in the university settings, but with the MBA, with the deferred MBA program, it allows you to take risk. It allows you to be a little bit more creative and innovative when it comes to your career, right? So you can explore roles, you can explore industries, geographies, knowing that you kind of have an MBA in your back pocket when the timing is right. Now, for someone to maybe, not or hold off, honestly, a traditional MBA path can be a fit for candidates who want full-time work experience before applying, but spending a few years in the workforce can help sharpen your career. If you don't know exactly what you want to do, it can give you a little bit more sense of like that deepening of your leadership experience, and it makes it a little bit more easy to articulate what you want to do once you've had that experience and exposure. So yeah, if you're not ready, if you don't know yet what exactly you want to do, maybe getting some industry exposure can help really concrete those goals. So
All
yeah.
right. Yeah, those are terrific points. I want to turn to Nicole at Columbia. Nicole, anything to add here? I mean, is there a reason that, a reason someone might consider deferred MBA and why they might hold off?
Sure, I echo a lot of what was already said. I think another great reason to consider it is, um, to be blunt, there's not a lot to lose. We see a lot of deferred candidates, even if they aren't successful, maybe they don't have that clear, crisp picture of why an MBA and what your long-term career is going to look like. Speaking for myself, if I was a college senior still, I wouldn't. So that's totally normal. And we see a lot of people come back around after gaining full-time work experience and apply to the full-time program very successfully. And I can't speak for all applications, but typically the deferred application is a bit more abbreviated. It might have a lower application fee if maybe it has $0 application fee. I know that's how ours is at Columbia. So again, not a whole lot to lose if you think an MBA might be something you want to consider. To Versus point, like do it while you're still in that test taking mindset, that academic mindset,
Mhm.
before you're, working long hours throughout the week, and are distracted by other things. So. I don't really have a reason for someone to hold off unless you
Yeah.
really don't know what an MBA is and maybe you need to take a little bit more time to do your research. But again, I see it as a huge benefit if you think that it might be something you want to pursue.
Yeah, and I love that you're pointing out that there's no stigma associated with applying and not getting in, that you could come
Yeah.
back around after you've worked a couple of years or 3 years, 5 years, whatever, and apply. And it's not like the admission seems like, oh, we remember this person. We said no the first time. We're not taking this. That's not at all what happens. So I think that's a really important point. Let's turn to Paul at Stanford GSB. Paul, what are your thoughts on these topics?
I'll echo verse very specifically. It lets you build experience very intentionally right after you graduate. Some folks often go into roles thinking, especially if you know that the MBA is on your path, you think I need to go to this firm and get this promotion at this time and do all these things at once, to make myself be more uh, acceptable for school one day, excuse me. And in this route, you already have the opportunity to be admitted to the program, right? So you can really take chances, take risk in your first role or your second role during your deferment. And I think on the flip side, to Nicole's point, I think about the only time that it doesn't make sense is if you don't know the MBA is on your path, right? So if you're not confident in that and you don't have a super clear why, I think it'll help you to go and find that clarity while you're still eligible for the deferred program. If you don't, we'll still be around in a few years. So I think that's about the only time that it doesn't make sense to apply is if you really don't know that you want to.
Yeah, great points as well. So Hillary, and I recognize answers might be dwindling as we go through the roundtable here. Poor Catherine's waiting, and maybe she has something that'll. But Hillary, how about you? Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, the only thing I'll add, just building off what Paul just shared, is I think for students who are admitted to deferred MBA programs, as you're sort of navigating your early career during your deferral period, you can sort of leverage the alumni base or the knowledge of your early MBA admission to network with folks who are doing the type of work that you want to do post MBA, midterm or long term after the MBA, or sort of having the type of MBA experience or involved in the clubs or things that are of interest to you in that particular MBA program. Because you already know, right? You'll be pursuing an MBA in 2 to 4 or 5 years. So I think that knowledge can help you hit the ground running a lot faster because the 2 years goes by very quickly. So being intentional with your time and building relationships and growing your network from the start can be a huge benefit. I don't have a different reason for the second question, so I echo my
Okay.
colleagues.
Yeah, no worries there. Now I'm dreaming about how it would have been really great to be able to look for my first job and tell employers, oh, by the way, I have an admit, for a few years down the road to go to whatever school. So yeah, you're right. That's a really interesting thing to be able to point to. Catherine, you've been patient. It sounded like you maybe had something to add. So what are your thoughts on these?
Yeah, and to your point, we have heard of times where our admitted students have been put in positions with greater responsibility based on the fact that they've already been admitted to a top MBA program. So that is
Wow.
an advantage. Another advantage, and Nicole kind of brushed on this, but to build on that, you are in test taking mode. You've been taking tests your whole life. And once you graduate, your brain will be working in a different way. So if you can find time to take the GMAT or GRE, I don't want to let my friends down by not sharing my statistic that I say on every panel. But I heard at a GMAT conference that studies show students who take the GMAT while they're still in school on average perform 30 points higher than students who take the GMAT when they're working full time. So that would be another incentive to thinking about deferred enrollment, even if you are not hitting submit on your application. And then the reason that I could come up with for holding off would be this is my one reason, and I was so proud of myself for coming up with a reason. If you are joining the military and you have a commitment to service that exceeds the deferral period, you should not apply.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
Or if you're going straight into graduate school, you should wait. That would be my
Hmm.
other advice.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And, to your earlier point about the testing, like I could not agree more. I think the parts of your brain that help you to perform well on these tests, it's sort of like, running a marathon and when you're in university still, you're kind of using those muscles all the time for your classes. And so taking the test is a great thing to do. Whereas once you hit the workforce, you're using sort of a different set in many cases of muscles or parts of your brain. And so, yeah, taking the test while you're still at university is smart. Let's move on. The next thing I wanted to do, I think we have a little list here. Yeah. So just so people know, and I know I talked about this last week, but some of you were not here last week. So there are, a number of components that go into an application. As I think Nicole mentioned, not everyone has a fee. Some schools do, some don't. But a lot of times for deferred, there is not a fee. So that's another advantage. But there's usually a form to fill out. You have to provide your transcripts. Most schools will require that you take a test, although some may allow for waivers, resume, essays, or short answers that you have to provide, letters of recommendation. Many schools will interview you as well if you make it to that stage. And if you're a non-native English speaker, you may have to take a language exam. So these are the basics, and every school has its own sort of set, but these are kind of the common points that we'd see across most of these programs. So just in case you're wondering what you might have to do, the next thing we have here, just so that everyone knows, deadlines. And what we did is we put the next deadline. All these schools have April deadlines, perfectly suited to college students who are, looking to think about applying now, or current master's degree students, et cetera. We also did throw in, there are a couple of later deadlines. So Darden has a July 15th deadline. And then for Stanford, you've already announced, it looks like, the deadlines for next cycle. So if someone's a junior right now in college, this would be more for them, right? To know that, okay, next fall I could apply via deferred. So anyway, just some, get these on your calendar if you're planning on on applying. Just want everyone to know that. The next part of our discussion that I wanted to get into is I wanted to give each school a chance to introduce us to an aspect of their deferred enrollment program that makes it different from the traditional MBA. So something that happens when you go in via this path that's a little different. And then I also thought it'd be nice to have each panelist highlight just some aspect of their admissions process that they want us to know about, and just make us aware of. And just as a reminder to everyone, all of our panelists are going to stick around when we get through the main session here, and we'll push them into breakout rooms so that you can go and ask them questions. So please hold your questions for them for the breakouts. But I'm going to turn now to Verse at Berkeley Haas. So Verse, yeah, two questions. Tell us something about your program and maybe a piece of the admissions process too.
Absolutely. I think just prefacing understanding deferred enrollment, one key difference is timing and mindset. And in deferred enrollment, we're evaluating these candidates, you all, it's based on fully potential, right? We don't know the full polished outcome, right? So I want you all to remember, to really truly remember that. We know that you guys are early on in your journey, so we're really focused on how you think, how you use your time, your choices that you're making right now in the present, rather than expecting this fully formed, perfect, career narrative. So I want you all to really truly understand that and think that through. And with the accelerated access program, when it comes to your application materials, they really tell that story, and so we are really intentional about that holistic, approach, and context driven, right? So the application, this is where, we read each application with a clear understanding where each candidate is in their life. We're looking for alignment across the resume. We're looking at your essays, your recommendations. There is no true right, candidate. What matter it truly is about authenticity. It's about your reflection. It's about your intentionality and how you present your story. And so the other question around highlighting an aspect of the process that you want candidates to know about, we rarely talk about interviews, I feel. And the previous slide has said that interviews are by invitation only. So I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into that. Yeah, that is correct. Interviews about invitation only. It's really important for you all to know that the interviewers only have access to your resume. And so that's where you go back with the intentionality of your resume. Your resume should be treated like another essay. They don't have access to your full application. So really being intentional about what you put on there. Because of that, it's absolutely okay to repeat and expand on projects that you've talked about in your application as a whole, projects, experiences, strengths, all of that, where you've maybe shared that elsewhere. So I really encourage you to treat the resume like another essay. We really want you to focus on impact, not tasks. You don't have to list all the things that you did. It's really about the impact, your learning, and your outcomes, rather than listing like a whole bunch of things that you've, done for the company. So that's what I would say about, a specific aspect of the admissions process and kind of what we're looking at as far as the deferred enrollment program versus the traditional MBA. It's really truly based on potential and how you present yourself right now. So we're banking on you, we're betting on you based on what you present to us.
Yeah, I really appreciate you highlighting that too, because I think sometimes candidates at this stage are like, "Oh, I'm being compared to someone who's worked for 4 years, full time," and that's not the case. As Versa just pointed out, they're betting on you. They're trying to predict where you might be, but based on the information they have at hand. And I also think it's great that you talked about the interviews because we don't often talk as much about that because it's a later step, in the process. And every school does this differently. Like I think it'd be worth everyone joining us today just be aware that in the case of Berkeley Haas, they have your resume. They're going to interview based on that. There are other instances, I think Darden, where they don't have anything. And then there may be other instances, and I can't remember which schools these are, but there's some where they've read your file. So it really varies. So you always want to know when you go into an interview what your interview knows about you. That would be very useful piece of information. Let's move on and talk with Nicole at Columbia. Nicole, you have the same assignment here. One aspect of your deferred enrollment program that you want people to know about that's a little different from the traditional MBA route, and then one piece of the application process.
Sure. Yeah, so I think actually I might twist this question a little bit because I think a big misconception about the deferred program is that you're kind of a separate cohort and, not really part of the full-time MBA. That's not at all true. Yes, to earlier points, you're being evaluated in a separate pool. We're not comparing you to, students applying to the full-time program with years of work experience. We're looking at your deferred pool, and making our judgments and evaluations from that. But when it does come time to matriculate, you're matriculating into a full-time MBA class and you're mixed into the cohort the same way you would be if you were applying just in time, is what we call it. So you're gaining the same experience, but again, you have kind of the hard part behind you and under your belt when it does come time to matriculate, so that you can experience the MBA in the same way that everyone else around you is at that point. So I do think that is a key thing to kind of call out as you're doing your research into these programs, to just know that for the most part, across all of these schools, you're part of a much larger cohort when the time comes. Um, in terms of our application process, without like getting too into the nitty-gritty, something I like to highlight is also around our interviews. Most of our deferred candidates are interviewed by current students, second year MBA students. And I think it's just a great way to get to know about the school and the community, and talk to someone who's, living in it and experiencing it in real time. So it kind of gives you like a new window into what it might look like. It's a two-way conversation. It's not meant to be a trick or any trick questions or, super, it's a behavioral conversation. It's a behavioral interview and just a chance for you to get to know the school some more and someone in our community to get to know you more. So I like that we have our current students do it. They love doing it. And I think it's just something that's nice to highlight. But to Graham's point, definitely do your research into the schools you're applying to because everyone does it a little bit differently, and you want to be sure you're prepared going into it.
All right. Yeah, appreciate that. Lots of good insights. Let's turn now to Paul at Stanford GSB. Same assignment, Paul, to, one thing about the program and one thing about the application process.
Yeah, thanks, Graham. I appreciate Nicole's point of highlighting that the programs you are joining the same program. Really, the main point I wanted to make is very similar. But like my colleague Hillary mentioned at the start, one of the main differences between all of our programs and doing direct enrollment is that you will have a deferral period where you are a member of our community, right? So you do get to start building your GSB network in our case over multiple years in ways that students who are joining us directly don't get to do, right? That they're doing in 2 years while they're in the program. Maybe a few months after they find out that they've been admitted until when they start is when they can, start building some connections that they're able to catapult into once they get to campus. But you have a longer runway to do that. So I'd say make sure that if you are admitted to any of our deferred programs, that you are taking full advantage of that deferral period and really connecting with the folks that are going to be not just the folks that are admitted with you in that deferral period, but also the folks that are going to be fellow alums of the program with you one day. These are the folks that are going to be folks that may start a business with you one day, that may be your boss one day, so having those connections early is super important. And to the piece I want to highlight, there's all of our applications have optional components at some point. One of ours is an optional short answer that really is an opportunity for you to expand a little bit more on a particular accomplishment that you want to highlight for us. The question goes something like, tell us about a time within the last few years where you created a positive impact and how you did it, what you did. And this is really a chance to highlight the how behind the what, because we really believe at Stanford GSB that past actions are the best predictor of future actions, right? So telling us about the impact that you had, really you're talking about the scope, the results, and how you brought people along with you. And I think that last piece is very important to really showcase your leadership. So again, it truly is an optional component of our application. Folks that do not fill them out are absolutely admitted to our program every year, every round. But it is an opportunity that if you have more words to say about something that you've done, I would absolutely take advantage of them.
Yeah, that's great advice. And now you're reminding me that I think one thing that's really important for people to do when they, journey down this path of application is to look at the entire application before you because I think there's a tendency to go online and just look up, oh, what are the main essays, and to know the rough components, but not to log in and go through the application form, because sometimes there are these sort of short answers or optional pieces that you don't want to be filling out on the eve that the application is due. So definitely do that investigating. Thanks for those answers, Paul. Let's turn to Hillary now at Wharton. Oh, there we go. Yeah, sorry. I thought we were jumping
Okay.
ahead here. So yeah, Hillary, take us through these two questions from your
Yeah,
perspective.
absolutely. So, similar to Paul's sentiments, right? You will be joining a community for 2 to 4 years prior to matriculation. And so, Wharton in particular, we offer both synchronous and asynchronous programming during your deferral period, as well as invite folks to both the Slack and LinkedIn, network to begin to, both formally and informally connect with your fellow MOLIS fellows. And I know many of our peer programs do this as well. So, on the formal side, right, like we've hosted meetups in New York. We typically host like 2 Q&A sessions each year with our MBA career management career advisors where folks can ask them questions. And then informally, right, like I hear stories about people meeting up for brunch, who are in the same city. So just a great way to sort of have a small network and some friends prior to matriculation, which I think is really important. And then specific aspect of our admissions process. I know we've been touching on interviews, but Wharton in particular, I know our interview process is a bit unique compared to other programs. So, for those that are selected to interview, our interview is a team-based discussion, which is meant to model the collaborative nature of the classroom experience as Wharton at Wharton. So you'll be given a prompt. When you are invited to interview that you're asked to just do a little bit of research on and just come prepared to that team-based discussion to talk about your ideas. And as a group, you'll sort of work together towards a resolution. There's nothing aside from preparing a little bit about the prompt, but aside from that, there's nothing you can really do to prepare for the team-based discussion, right? Because we want it to feel as natural and organic as possible. We want to understand how you show up in a group, how you communicate, how you work with others, your emotional intelligence, right? So there's no need to do a mock, right? Team-based discussion, really just show up and be who you are. And then that is followed by a 10-minute one-on-one interview with a member of our admissions committee. So that's a different aspect of the Wharton MBA admissions process.
Okay, terrific. Yeah, and I appreciate you talking about that too, because again, it just points out that each school, while there are some common components, each school has their own sort of twist on how they do things. In this case, the team-based interview. Let's turn to Catherine at UVA Darden. Catherine, what are your thoughts on these two questions? Oh,
Sure.
there we go.
So, am I here? Okay, there I am.
Yeah.
So, I would say the same thing as my peers were saying about the deferral period. I think the thing that's top of mind for me that's different for our students matriculating to Darden through the deferred period is that we offer a career series of support for students in their deferral period to help them throughout the year as they are working on really nailing down their MBA goals as well as trying to figure out how to advance in their levels of responsibility in their current positions. So, want to make sure that students, when they enter the MBA program, are ready to go when it comes to recruiting. So, that would be the thing that I would say is a little bit different for deferred students versus MBA students who don't get career support until the summer before they matriculate. And then the thing that is something a little bit different about our admissions process is that we are test flexible and will accept your SAT or ACT score from high school in lieu of the GMAT or GRE. If you're looking to strengthen your academic readiness, demonstrations of academic readiness, I strongly support the GMAT or GRE. If you're looking to strengthen your competitiveness for merit scholarship, I think the GMAT or GRE is a good idea. And if you are interested in consulting as a potential career path, I strongly recommend the GMAT or GRE. But we will accept the SAT for purposes of admission through the deferred program.
Okay. Yeah, that's really helpful advice too. All right. So the next thing I want to do is we'll go back up to Verse at Berkeley Haas. And what we've done for our panels, just so they know, we have some slides with your different essay questions. And obviously, I think it's one slide per school, but there could be some schools where we have more than one if we couldn't fit them on a single slide. So the idea is I just want you to pick one of your questions and kind of walk us through it. And then I'll probably have a follow-up question that maybe takes us to talking about another essay question you have. But so Verse, we'll turn it over to you. Anything you want to share about Haas's process here?
Got you. Yeah. So one of my favorite essays is the Alive essay. So we break it down between a live essay and the why BA, in a sense, Berkeley House Accelerated Access. So let's go with the Alive essay. This essay really tells us a lot about how an applicant is kind of wired, right? So we learn genuinely like what energizes them, how they find meaning, what motivates them when there's no external reward, or outcome attacks. It often in my opinion, it reveals, a little bit about values, curiosity, creativity, a little bit of resilience, that those things that can really kind of tap in and how deeply, engaged they are about things that they care about, right? In our evaluation as an admissions committee, it really helps us understand, the person behind the resume, behind the transcripts, and how they think, how they reflect, how they make sense of their experiences. So at the same time, I would say it gives a little bit of insight into the kind of leader, right? Informal and formal, and what type of community member they may be at Haas, right? What makes someone feel alive can also connect us to how they collaborate, how they support others, how they take initiative, and naturally step into these leadership roles, whether that shows up through mentoring. I've seen some amazing essays on creating, organizing, Lego building, music, concerts, performing, or just exploring new ideas, right? This essay can really help us imagine how they would engage on campus, right? And contribute to the Haas community. So that's what I would say about that live essay. It's your choosing. It's 300 words. It's your voice. Please, please use your voice. Be authentic. Don't be strategic, rather than just strategy. Choose something that really energizes you. Don't choose two to three things. You only have 300 words. Concise is key. And even if it's unconventional, even if it's not career driven, like it just gives us insight. Strong responses, they go beyond just describing the activity. It really puts into the why, right? Like put me in that situation where I can envision what makes you feel alive, whether that's a
Mhm.
concert, whether that's Lego building or cooking. I want to be in the kitchen with you, right? Like give me that visualization, right? But yeah, also I would say please don't overthink it and remember that AI is a tool. It should not be writing your essay. So yeah.
Yeah. Plus, it's just 300 words. So, I mean, you'd have to be kind of a probably pretty high level of lazy not to just write those 300 words yourself. In any event, I did want to ask you something, though. It is an unconventional essay in that I think candidates are used to being asked about, oh, what's your career plan? Or tell us about an accomplishment, or these kind of very buttoned up, kind of questions. And so
Hmm.
I wondered, I'm hearing you talking about Lego building or cooking. Um,
Yeah.
that suggests to me that it's sort of like anything goes here and that they could that I sort of wonder like how much fun can a candidate have with this, and what I'm hearing from you is whatever really gets you going you should write about, and that's going to
Abs-
be most interesting and authentic. So yeah, just so people, I want people to understand that because I think there could be a tendency to veer towards the you know accounting makes me feel alive, or like something which, no offense to accountants, but
Exactly. If that's your
uh,
thing, that's your thing. It can, and
right,
the true question is like, is this professional? Is it fun?
yeah,
And I'm like, sometimes it can be a mixture of both. I've seen candidates do and merge them both, where someone is like, I geek out on theory. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Tell me about
hmm,
it. That's absolutely fine, but it really is just about your voice, right? So as an admissions committee, we evaluate in three ways: personal, professional, and academic qualities. This is where the personal qualities fit in because we want to see that you are aligned with our program, you are aligned with our community, and that you're going to thrive here, right? But you're also going to give back. So it just gives us a little bit of a taste of you, right? And it's also something to be memorable. We're reading thousands of applications, thousands.
yeah.
So when you're authentic and your voice comes through, you give me a snippet of that. And so I remember those things. So, yeah.
Mm. Yeah, and I love the idea that, obviously you're talking about like maybe a concert makes somebody feel alive, but maybe that person happens to want to work in media and entertainment or something. So there could be a real connection between the
Exactly.
fun and the work, as you just pointed out. So, all right, we could go on for hours about this, but I love that question. It's a lot of fun. Let's keep moving because I know we're on the clock here. Let's turn to Nicole at Columbia. So Nicole, same thing. We have a slide with your essay questions. Pick one of them and take us through.
Sure. So I'm gonna pick the second one, so that we're not kind of repeating all the career goals that I know we've talked about in our introductions. But yes, our second essay is around community contributions, which is truly a key part of the CBS MBA experience. It's something that frankly really surprised me when I joined this school 4 years ago, is just how engaged and vibrant and active our community is. So we want to ensure that we are continuing that legacy with um, each class that we bring in. So this truly, it's not just fluff. This really is important to us. We want to get a sense of how you've shown up in your current institution, and that's going to look different on everyone. So to earlier points that were made, be authentic, bring your voice. There's no right or wrong answer here. You don't need to be like the president of your student government for this to be a strong essay. We just want to get a sense of what are you interested in outside of those required, academics that, make up your college career? What are you interested in? How have you spent your time? How have you engaged with your community? Because that's going to give us a really strong sense of how you might show up in this community one day. We ask our full-time applicants a similar question. So again, this is really important to us and a key part of the evaluation process. I think sometimes maybe even more so for the deferred applicants because we are not looking at, extensive work experience. So we're really just trying to get a sense of how you've showed up in your current institution, and how that might translate into your future workplace, and then also, of course, into a future MBA program. So I like this essay a lot. People can get creative with it. And again, there's no right or wrong way to answer this question.
So one thing that I'm thinking about is, a lot of undergrads have their, I don't know what the word is, fingers in many different pies, right? They're doing a lot of different things on campus, and they might want to sort of like bring out a bunch of it in one essay. But this feels more like you're kind of saying, tell us about a time where a specific thing. And so, would you
Yes.
say, given the word count, probably best to sort of just pick something rather than try to, be a jack of all trades or something?
Absolutely. Thank you for calling that out. To earlier points, also, it's 250 words. It's not a ton of space. It's
Yeah.
not a ton of real estate. So yes, I think that, second sentence, discuss one experience is really kind of a key part of this prompt. So use your resume to kind of highlight the breadth of things that you've done while you're on campus. Use that space. Smartly, but really
Hmm.
pick one thing that maybe stands out from your experience on campus, that really like you're going to look back in 10 years and feel proud of, to write about in this essay to really illustrate it for us and make it come to life in a short essay.
Okay. Yeah, that's terrific. That makes a lot of sense. All right, moving right along, let's turn to Paul at Stanford GSB. Same assignment, Paul. Pick one of these and yeah, say a little bit about it.
Yeah, I am not going to cheat, but I do want to call out that our SA2 has recently changed and it's Why Stanford for You.
Oh,
Just a very quick or very small change, but to really get to the idea of like this is a very personal decision and we want to learn more about you and how we fit into it. So just want to call that out since it's on the slide. But I do, if you can imagine, want to talk about what matters most to you and why. And there's a few things that we get to learn about you. One is your values and your judgment, right? So, what do you prioritize when it may cost you something potentially? If you really get to talking about what matters to you, why it matters to you, and how you've done that or how that's shown up for you, we may get to learn about your values and your judgment. A big one is that we get to learn about the depth of your self-awareness, right? So can you name patterns, your motivations, maybe contradictions sometimes, and your growth, right? So it's an opportunity for you to tell us a little bit more about, or show us a little bit more about how self-aware you can be. This is a very introspective process in its totality, the entire MBA application, like even just deciding which schools you apply to, let alone answering each individual essay prompt. So definitely approach it with that in mind, knowing that that's something that we're looking out for. And then, like other folks have said, authenticity and specificity. Do we really feel that there's a real person with a real set of choices behind this essay and not just a slogan, right? There's some what matters most to you essays that I've read, and their what matters most is so clear and clean and I'm like, great, this is about to be a fantastic essay. And the rest of the essay is not as polished as the slogan that is the what matters to them, right? So in that, I'll say the why of this essay is doing a lot of work as well, right? So the why lets you get into the specific details. Um, and like my colleague Verse mentioned earlier, the essay is an opportunity for us to really see actually you in a few different components, right? I think Verse mentioned the personal, but it sounds like the professional as well is a possibility. And I think for us, there's three components that we're looking at: how you think, how you lead, and how you see the world. And your response to this essay can touch on all three. What we're mainly looking for is how you see the world, right? This is who am I? Who are you? Why do you show up the way you do? Et cetera, right? So that's really what this essay is focused on. But more often than not, we also get to see how you think and how you lead in this essay. And sorry, really quick on the tip. I think it's important to start with moments versus themes and really push past the what into the so what. So why does it matter? How has it formed you? How is it guiding your decisions now? This is really, again, an opportunity for us to see how it is that you're showing up. And very tactical piece of advice, I'd say don't get stressed on getting started. What matters most to you, period, may come later. But I recommend as you start thinking about this essay, start with what matters to me today. It doesn't even need to be what matters most to me today. What matters to me today and why, right? And we have an exercise that we call the five whys. What you would do is say, okay, I just wrote what matters to me today, and that is getting up and showing up to work on time. Now, why did I just write that? Taking that a step further, why did I just write that? Why? And going down a few levels until you feel that you found something that actually is a through line for why showing up to work on time is important to you, right? And again, it gets you in the habit of like thinking the second order question that when you really do get to what matters most to you, one day, even if it's not on the first day that you start writing this essay, that you really do have a clear understanding of the actual thing that matters to you versus the surface level piece.
Yeah, that's terrific advice. And it's funny, someone on your team once said to me this idea of like, yeah, listing out moments, like just taking a sort of inventory of your life and making a list before you even start trying to figure out what it is that matters to you. And just sort of journaling for a period of time and making this list of things. And that sort of can percolate into, because I would imagine you guys on the team have seen almost any possible combination of like what it is that matters. It's really the examples that support it afterwards that probably bring the candidate to life. So I know we're going to press for time, so we're going to move on here. But thanks, Paul, for shedding so much light on that. So where are we going next? I think we had the slides were a little bit in a different order. So I think maybe actually have Darden next. Yeah. So Hillary, we'll get to you in a second. So Catherine, take us through. What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, sure. I'll be fast. I'm listening to my colleagues. It's just reminding me of what an exercise applying to MBA programs is in self-reflection. Sometimes I think it's like sitting on the couch of a therapist's office and asking yourself, who am I? What am I all about? So this is a great exercise that will help you not just with like, going to business school, but also with recruiting and applying for jobs as well. The essay I would touch on would be what would you want your classmates to know about you that is not on your resume? As Verse and other colleagues have alluded to, we are interested so much more in who you are beyond just your academic profile, your clubs and organizations, and your internships. We want to know your personality, what you'll bring to the school. For those of you who don't know, the Darden program, the core curriculum is 100% case method, which means you will be spending a lot of time with your classmates preparing for class on your teams. And so, one way to approach this essay is what would you bring to this group of people that you're going to spend a lot of time working with beyond just your professional experience and your brain? What's your personality like? Where will you bring levity to an intense moment? And think about some examples from your past that you can share that demonstrate that quality of yours beyond just telling us.
All right. Now I have two speedy follow-ups. So the first is how far back could someone go? Because, we're talking about undergrads here. Like, is there sort of a time limit? Like, would you say, oh, don't reach back into, grade school to sort of provide something about you? Or is that okay if it's something that really is important that shaped who you are
If
and
it's
stuff?
transformational, pivotal, something from your childhood that you really think has shaped who you are today and the impact you'll make at Darden, then I would say that that is fair game. But generally speaking, I think it should be a little bit more recent.
Okay. That's good to know. And then the other thing, I just have to call this out. The third question, careers with purpose. You guys are one of the only schools that have this little phrase at the beginning of the essay that says, at this time. And I think that's really interesting because it seems to me to take some of the pressure off of like, it's not what are you going to do with your life after business school or even before. It's sort of like at this time, what do you think you're going to do? Which I think changes the dynamic a little bit. And I wondered if you could just comment on that.
Yeah, I think that's because of me. I think I put that in there because I had no idea what I wanted to do. And honestly, I don't know how much I believe people who say they know exactly what they want to do at school because it changes so much for so many people. And so, but what doesn't change are some of the core principles of who you are, your leadership, that you are a leader, that you do take initiative, that you are a strategic thinker. So there are many reasons why you can see an MBA is a part of your plan. Even if you don't know exactly what you want to do, you know that those core pieces of who you are going to lead you to an MBA program in the future.
Okay, perfect. I had no idea, by the way. I did not know that you added that. So that was a perfect setup. All right, let's turn to Hillary at Wharton. Same assignment here. Take us through something, one of your essay questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I will touch on the two career short answer essays just because we slightly tweaked them this year for both, the just-in-time MBA program and deferred enrollment program. So the first short answer question asked, what are your short-term professional goal, or what is your short-term professional goal during your deferment period? And so this is the opportunity, quite literally, to share how you are currently thinking about spending your deferral period from a career perspective. You have 50 words, so be direct and concise. So think title, function, industry, etc. Don't worry about explaining the why because we want the directness with the very intentional word count there. We but also in addressing this question, I think it's also important to note that we know that some of you might not have your postgraduate plans lined up at the time of application, which is totally fine. We know that certain industries and companies hire on a more just-in-time basis, so maybe closer to your graduation or into the summer, right? Not every industry or company follows the same timing as consulting and banking. And so we are aware of that. So it's okay if, in short answer, one, you can say, I'm thinking about this role in this industry or this role in that industry. We also provide the space within the application where we ask about your pre-professional experiences if you have a postgraduate job lined up with a yes, no, and a text box. So that's also another opportunity where you can provide a little bit more context into your confirmed or when I say not confirmed, like what stage you are in the job searching process. And then for short answer two, what are your immediate post-MBA career goals and how will those build towards your long-term professional goals? So you have 150 words here, so a little bit more, but still not a ton. We're sort of looking to understand what you're hoping to achieve in the medium term and the long term. So again, you want to be clear, you want to be specific. So whether you have a clear vision for your career goals in the mid and long term, or if you're exploring different paths with a general sense of the impact that you want to have, either way is fine. But you do have a little bit more chance to provide context, but just be focused and self-aware. The only other thing I'll bring up is, right, like these two short answers are only asking you about your career goals. We're not asking you about what classes you want to take at Wharton or what clubs you want to get involved in at Wharton in order to achieve these goals. So just answer this from a professional and career standpoint.
Okay, terrific advice. And I'm assuming that that essay, the third item here on the slide, is where they could get into some of that stuff.
Absolutely.
But I was kind of curious to know with this question. It says taking into consideration your background, and so I could see them just talking a lot about what they've done and how they're going to bring it to Wharton. But how specific do they need to be about like how they're going to bring it into Wharton? Like, should they be saying like, oh, I'm going to get involved in this club or I'm going to take this class and that's where this will be brought to bear? Or is it more important to focus on what it is about their background that they're bringing with them and not get into the sort of nitty gritty?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we obviously want this essay to be grounded in your personal experiences, right? So whether you are speaking about who you are as a person, professionally or pre-professionally, things that are informing who you are and or
Hmm.
academically, just sort of how you'll show up in the Wharton community, what community is meant to you. We don't want you to provide an exhaustive list of all the reasons how you'll get involved in Wharton. You can maybe pick, one or two or three salient things,
Hmm.
maybe reflecting back on the things that you've been involved in the past, where you have found community in the past, and then how you'll contribute to the Wharton community in those specific ways. So you don't have to recite the website back to us, but we just want this experience to be grounded in the impact of what your presence could mean here at Wharton and grounded in your own personal experiences.
Okay, terrific. All right, so I have one more thing to do before I can let you all go into the breakout rooms and chat with our attendees, and that is we have these lightning round questions. And what I'm going to do is there are two lightning round questions, and so since we're a little bit, want to finish up by the top of the hour, I'm going to just give them both of them to you as we go. So we'll start with Verse. So the first question, Verse, is what is your favorite part about reading applications for deferred enrollment? And I think the second question is like, what's your favorite secret spot on campus? So we'll start with whichever one you want to answer first, but those are the two questions.
No doubt. My favorite part about reading deferred applications are the essays. Honestly, I really do think that they give me really good personal insight into the candidate. Sometimes they can reveal their creativity, their humor, and I love that. It really allows them to not just be transcripts and resumes. So I really love that. And my favorite spot on campus right now is the School of Business, the courtyard. It's really good for outdoor seating, and I've taken some amazing calls out there. So yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. I think folks on the East Coast are wondering how anyone could be sitting outside given how cold it's been. But that West Coast weather is a whole other story. All right, so let's turn to Nicole. Yeah, Nicole, what's your favorite part about reading deferred applications and then a secret spot on campus that you like?
Sure. Yes, I would love to sit outside and take a call right now. I would, probably end up in the hospital for my hypothermia. Um, but yeah, I love reading the deferred applications every year. When you work at a top MBA program, you meet and engage with so many impressive people. But I think for me, when it comes time to read deferred, like I just am so taken back and admire, these young college students who have worked so hard through their undergraduate and are so focused on their future and their career and getting an MBA one day. I find it so admirable. I think Catherine made the joke too, like you had no idea what you wanted to do. I was in that boat too. So I find it super admirable and love hearing all the different ways people see an MBA fitting into their future because it is different for everyone. Um,
Hmm.
and then it's secret spot on campus. So we're on a newer, it's really not new anymore. We're going on year 4 on the Manhattanville campus. It's two big, beautiful glass buildings. But we've recently put Joe Coffee in the lobby of our building. So it's not really a secret, but it's a great spot to take a break and, catch up with students or colleagues. So I'm
Got it.
glad we have that addition now.
Excellent. I thought you were going to say the secret tunnel between the two buildings since it's been
Oh
cold out
yeah.
that allows you to go from
That's
one to the
actually,
other, right?
and it's very fitting given the weather. No one wants to go outside to get from Geffen to
Yeah,
Kravis. So it's
exactly.
called the link. And yes, it connects our buildings.
There you go. Paul, how about you? Something you like about reading these apps and then a special spot on campus.
I'm gonna start with the special spot. It's not super secret, but it's a boardroom in our library that is on the fifth floor, and I just changed my background, and it's mainly just the
Oh,
sweeping views, like the mountain range as it flows into campus is just a very nice spot to sit and stare out at for a bit. You also get to see the tops of all the buildings, and I learned a fact on one of the tours when I first got to Stanford. The parents of Leland Stanford Jr., which the university is named after, actually have the top of all the buildings look the same in honor of him. He passed at about 13, and it's for him to be able to see the campus, which I just felt was so sweet. And you can see it from the top of the GSB's library as well. I think my
wow.
favorite piece is very big picture, but I think it's been touched on by a few other folks, but it's just exciting to see what the future has in store by hearing from folks that are applying to this program in particular. I think our direct enrollment candidates are doing amazing things, are going to do amazing things as well. But to see, 21-year-olds have such a clear vision at times about what they're going to do and how they're going to do it is just very exciting.
Got it. Catherine, we'll turn to you.
Well, Paul used my word. My favorite part is just being inspired. Has anyone else read a million applications and now wants to go back to college and like redo it? I do. Like I have so many ideas of things I could have done because y'all have done them and you inspire us. And it just isn't such a privilege to feel like we are a part of your journey. You obviously don't need us on your journey, but we get to be a part of it. And I consider that a real privilege. And so that is my favorite part. And then on campus, currently, this time of year, it's definitely going to have to be the John Paul Jones Arena. I recently got married to a student athlete from the University of Virginia, and he has re-sparked my love of all things UVA athletics. So for our first Valentine's Day together, our romantic date is going to be driving to Nashville to watch the UVA men's basketball team play Ohio State. So looking forward to that.
Oh, wow. That's a great tidbit. I love these questions. All right, Hillary, you're up last. What is something you love about reading the applications and then a secret spot on campus or a favorite spot?
Absolutely. So we haven't talked about, I mean, echoing all the things my colleagues have shared, but we haven't talked about recommendations. And I think reading letters of recommendation and all of the amazing things that someone else has to say about you is like hearing about the projects that you've worked on or ways in which you've grown your student organizations and just how they think of you being the top 1% of folks that they have ever worked with. It's just I love reading recs, and I think that's also just an important lesson in just picking someone who knows you the best and can say really great things about you. So check all of our program websites for guidance on letter recommendations. That's my plug there. And then favorite spot on campus. So I mean, Penn has a beautiful, contained, historic campus for a city, right? And you have all of Philadelphia as your background. But I'm actually going to share the Morris Arboretum and Gardens, which is located in Chestnut Hill, which is still technically a part of Philly, but it's about a 30-minute drive from University City. I mean, it's just, I don't know how many acres, but it's huge and amazing. And I can dream of going there when I usually visit once or twice a year in the summer. So if any of you come to the Philly area, I would recommend going to the Arboretum.
All right, some great plugs for different things on your campuses. I want to sincerely thank Verse and Nicole, Paul, Catherine, and Hillary for all the time. What I'm going to ask you guys to do now is step backstage. You can do that at the bottom right of your screen, and we're going to get you into breakout rooms so that you guys can chat with our attendees. So we'll let you guys step backstage, but thank you so much. Really appreciate all your time today. As our panelists head backstage, I just want to remind everyone that they're going to be there to chat with you. And you can bounce from one room to another. You can go in and ask a question of Catherine at Darden and then bounce over to Paul at Stanford or whoever you want to talk to. But you can't be in multiple rooms at once. That's the way this is set up. So we will open those breakouts in a second. I did want to just remind everyone that there are some great resources on our website. We have a weekly podcast that airs every Monday. We do a lot of bonus episodes too with admissions deans and professors. And so definitely tune into the Clear Admit podcast. It's on Spotify and Apple. You can also post your profile to a tool on our website called ApplyWire. You can read tons of articles on our website. Everything is free for applicants on our website. And there are also live admissions updates on Livewire, which is where candidates can just leave little notes and information about what's happening to them in the admissions process. And we also have analyses of essay questions, kind of like what we did today, where we'll put up the school's questions and kind of write about why we think a school might be asking this question and how to sort of frame your thinking around it. So there's lots of good resources for you as you kind of navigate this process. So just think of us as kind of your free assistant in this process. We do have a couple of really fun AI tools that we've launched in the last year, so you can ask questions in there as well. They're all just based on the data that's on our website and all the events that we've done like these that are sort of poured into the LLM that we've built. But in any event, I want to thank everyone for making time today. I do encourage you to go and chat with our counselors who are here today. So each of our panelists is going to stick around for at least 20 minutes or so and chat with you. So I think we're going to open up those breakouts now. So that you can go and have those conversations. Obviously, stay tuned because we have a lot of other events coming up later this month. We're going to sit down with London Business School. We've got events towards the end of the month about Masters in Management programs. So there's all kinds of great things happening. Just stay tuned at clearadmit.com for all of that. But thanks everyone so much for making time today. And I hope to see you all at a future event.